JF Stretford, Paddock, this is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in the studio, we're live, so you know what to do by now. You get involved in the comments and the chat and let us know what you think about all the latest Manchester United news. A lot of the news this morning focusing on some game this weekend against a club. I wrote this down somewhere. Manchester City, whoever they are. Yeah, we've got a game against our derby rivals at the Etihad on Sunday. So we'll give a little bit of an update on some news stories surrounding potential team news in regards to that game. We'll also have some transfer stories because, yes, we may be in September, but we can still have transfer stories, and we still do at Manchester United. There's also a good article in The Athletic from our mate Laurie Whitwell, who did a thing about looking for Joel Glazer, went over to America to see if he could locate the Manchester United co-owner. Didn't have much luck, but I'll get into that as well and have a little bit of a look-see. And also these sort of rumours and stories that actually the Glazers are open to the idea of selling. Most of them are anyway. It's Joel Glazer who isn't, and he could be the key to whether Manchester United do end up getting new ownership or not. So we will get into all that stuff. Make sure you're getting involved too. I want to hear from you guys. Let us know in the chat and in the comments what you think about all those stories, any of those stories. If you've got any news, we want to hear from you too. And also, you know, if you've seen Joel Glazer, let us know. Right, I'll get into some of the comments straight away. Danny In says, morning, J lad. He said, morning, Jay. Scott Hughes says, morning, J lad. Luke McComb says, morning, Jay, your lord. Yeah. Richard Brake says, why is Maguire so protected by the UK media? Is he? We'll get into that in a bit. I know we've spent a lot of energy and time on Harry Maguire, but he is still a hot topic. I don't know if he is protected. I don't know. We'll get into that, though. We can have a bit of a discussion. Santa Notch, great to see him in the chat as well. He says UTP, up the paddock. Glenn McCullough, not McCullough, Adam McCullough. Glenn Merlocker says up the paddock as well. So we'll start off with the Ruben Neves story. So this is one that was that's been doing the rounds. Apparently, Ruben Neves, because he has been a long-term sort of target for Manchester United, and he's been linked with us over the last sort of at least, can I say, 2, maybe 3 seasons? I feel like it has been a little while. We have been linked with him. He always seems to be our sort of second choice as well. He doesn't seem to be the main target. It always feels like if we don't get someone, Neves is an option. That's sort of the common thinking, isn't it? Or the common reports have been that whilst Neves has never been top of our list, he's been on the list. He's been high up. Anyway, there was an article this morning. I think it's been doing the rounds. I think the MEN had it, and I think it's been doing the rounds in other papers as well. I'll have to double check where I got it from. I think it comes from Sport over in Spain. It says, Ruben Neves rejected United approach this summer. And it says, United viewed Ruben Neves as potential alternative to Frankie de Jong. See, he's always second fiddle, in it, eh? Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, is our Ruben. And reports suggest they even made an offer for him. Sport claims the Wolves midfielder rejected an approach from United, as well as one from Liverpool. Okay. After Neves discovered that Barcelona were interested in him, it is claimed that with a move unlikely this summer due to Barca's financial struggles, Neves even opted to stay at Molineux for 12 further months and wait for the Barca approach. I mean, that kind of makes sense. I think it's ESPN, that came from, but they're quoting Sport. The idea that, you know, United, but he was not our priority. Now, if he wasn't our priority, how did we make an offer for him? Because we were still chasing de Jong almost up until the 11th hour, and then when we didn't get de Jong, well, we didn't get de Jong, we went and got Casemiro, but even after that, there was still these rumours and reports that we would have had both de Jong and Casemiro. I don't know how true they are. It just seems a little bit weird that in the midst of all that, we threw in this bid for Ruben Neves. Maybe there was some interest there. I do believe that. I'm just not so sure that, you know, an official bid went in or there was a proper approach. It felt a little bit like United were looking at him as an alternative rather than as a priority. And because the de Jong saga, and I'll get to de Jong in a bit as well, because it's not over yet, by the way. The de Jong saga continues. Because the de Jong saga was ongoing, I don't know where this sort of Neves bid went in. I think we're lagging a little bit. Apparently, apologies for this. If you haven't experienced a little bit of a problem with a few of you in the comments saying the stream is a little bit like, I think we've got a bit of a problem with the internet in here. We've paid our bill. It's not our fault, by the way. Do you know what I mean? We have to put some more money in the meter. People saying, yeah, it works now. Apologies if you've had a bit of difficulty there. Do hit that like button, though. You might not like the fancy lagging, but you can like the video. Hit that like button. So, yeah, Neves, let us know. What do you think of Neves? Would you have him at United? He seems to divide opinion for me because a lot of people love him and say, yeah, great guy. Should have got him in. He's just what we need in our midfield. Others saying he's a bit bang average. I mean, he has been all right for Wolves. I think he's been a good player for them. I'm not so sure. Jamie White says, did you forget the Starbucks internet password again? No, I've got it now. Thank you, Jamie. Bilal Ashraf says, hi, Jay, you all right? Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, would you have Neves? Noggin 456 says no. Yeah? Because let's face facts as well. Just because Barcelona apparently interested in him doesn't mean this is going to end. Doesn't mean this is going to be the end of that. Do you know what I mean? Because we know that Barcelona are linked with so many players. We know they've had these financial difficulties. They keep pulling all these levers, don't they? Like, we just need to pull another lever and we'll sell the rights to our stadium for the next 500 years and that's giving us another £1 billion to spend or whatever. They just do these levers, don't they, to generate money. So they can always seem to generate some money. But I just don't know whether you can, if I was Ruben Neves, where you can go, oh, well, Barcelona will definitely be in for me next summer. I don't need to worry about that. They might not be. And if Manchester United are looking for a midfielder, then Neves could fit the bill. How old is Neves? Is he 24? Let's have a look. I feel like Ruben Neves has been 24 for about... Oh, he's 25. I was about to say, I feel like he's been 24 for ages. He's not. He's 25. Done a good job at Wolves, hasn't he? He's been playing for Wolves ever since back to the Championship days. Came over from Porto. Plays a lot of games as well. If you look at his Premier League record, 33 games last season, 36 season before, 38 the season before, 35 the season before that, 42 games in the Championship. Very rarely injured. Very rarely injured. So there's lots to like about Ruben Neves. I'm not so sure he's going to end up at Manchester United. You can let me know in the comments in the chat whether you think he will and whether you even want him. Do you want him? Right, should we move on to Paul Scholes? Paul Scholes has been chatting. I think he's been on the overlap, hasn't he? So you know what Scholes is like. He doesn't hold back, does he? He's been giving his opinion on a few things. One of the things he said as well, talking about United last season, he said it looked like the players were taking the pee a little bit. I've edited that because it's morning, innit? Do you know what I mean? They were doing what they want. They were going on the pitch, being in their own world, rather than what they wanted to... Doing what they wanted to do, rather than what was expected of them. Yeah, I mean, last season was a shambles. There's no denying it. And you have to look at some of the players and say, were they putting in the effort that they should have been? I don't think they were. Do you know what I mean? I don't take any pleasure in saying that about Manchester United players, that they weren't trying hard enough, but they weren't. Because you just watch those games, you watch some of those results, you watch some of those performances getting turned over, not just by the likes of Liverpool and Manchester City or whatever, but also Brighton absolutely battered us. And you can say, oh, well, Brentford did it this season. But yeah, we turned it around this season with that game against Liverpool. Last season, the results just carried on getting worse and worse. And the performances just got, poorer and poorer. So I can understand why Paul Scholes is coming out and he's being critical of what went on last season. I get it, and I think he's right. Daniel Harrington says Scholes was spot on. Best overlap there has been. Yeah, it's good. I like it when it's someone that Gary Neville knows. Because obviously him and Scholes go way back. Solo, good to see Solo in. Make sure you check it out in Man United Agenda. Scholes is 100% right. I mean, it's hard to argue, innit, to be honest with you, with that assessment of what went on last season. You can always look at it and you can go, okay, this season we've turned it around and the players are trying and all this other stuff. But in terms of last season, I have to agree with what Scholes is saying. I think that, the players just weren't trying. It wasn't good enough. He's also spoken as well about some of the transfer business that went on. He said... He says here, there's an article, I think this is in the Irish Independent, it's mentioned in the Scholes interview. It says, Scholes fears tonight could find himself in trouble too, as a club legend questions the decisions United have made in the transfer window over recent season. And he said here, he goes to say, Jadon Sancho was a young player who Manchester United spent a lot of money on, who was unproven in the league. And why would a club like Real Madrid let Varane go? If you looked at him last season, it didn't look right. I didn't think it was a great transfer window. I think he's referring to last season's one. Nobody at the club is taking responsibility for it. This year, Casemiro's done over 2 days. I wonder if it was the manager signing a lot of money at a long contract. I think they need to put someone in charge of recruitment. Eventually, the manager will get blamed for it. So he's looking at the recruitment. He's looking at the signings and he's saying, okay, who's making these happen? Because most of the signings we made this season, maybe other than the Casemiro one, felt like Erik Ten Hag signings, didn't they? Martinez, player that played for him. Antony, player that played for him. Tyrone Malacia, a player we knew from the Dutch league. Eriksen had trained with Ajax, don't forget. I think he trained with Ajax reserves after he had his cardiac arrest. So there would have been some sort of relationship there. Don't know how strong it is between him and Erik ten Hag. So you can imagine Erik ten Hag would have, had an opinion on Christian Eriksen. Was he the architect of that transfer? It's always a bit vague in it as to what exactly is going on at Manchester United with our transfers. Because at one point it looked like Ed Woodward was making those decisions. Now you've got Richard Arnold's come in. How much of a say is he having in transfers? Is it John Mercer? Is it Joel Glazer? Is Joel Glazer the man who signed? I think he signs off on the transfers, doesn't it? It does seem a little bit confusing. So I can understand why Scholes is saying, you need some. You need to have someone in charge of recruitment. I think that's what Manchester United have sort of tried to do now, haven't they? With the setup we've got, where you've got Erik ten Hag, you've got John Mertzart, and you've got, I think, I'm right in thinking it's Joel Glazer as the final sign-off in terms of releasing the funds or whatever. I'd rather the Glazers weren't involved in anything to do with Manchester United Football Club, to be honest with you. The sooner they go, the better. In fact, should we get on to that? Talk about the Glazers. Sorry, I just want to mention this as well, though, because it's worth mentioning, because people are talking about it in the comments. Rojo's Toe says, autism bit was heartbreaking and gave me new levels of respect for Scholes. Didn't think it was possible. This is the interview he did with the Overlap. We spoke about having children with one of his kids, I think, having autism. He was speaking about autism. Whitterbird says, having children with autism, he brought it home. So, obviously, quite a moving part of that interview. Go and check that interview out over on the Overlap as well. Right, let's move on to the Glazers, unfortunately. Yeah, searching for Joel Glazer. Where is he? Well, Laurie Whitwell went looking for him in the Athletic, and plot spoiler, he didn't find him. But if you get a chance, go and have a look over on the Athletic at Laurie's article. It's really good. And he speaks about how, I think he went over to DC and because Joel Glazer's got a few gaffes over there in an office there or something. So he just paints a picture of going into the office, asking for him, then ringing up, going, "Nah, he's not here. I've not seen him for ages." And then him, going knocking on his doors basically where he lives and asking his neighbours. It's a really good piece, it is. But the point is he wanted to ask him, he wanted to challenge him, he wanted to talk to him about Manchester United Football Club, because the guy never really does any interviews. I think he's due to meet the fans forum, whatever it is, soon, or do a Zoom call with him. But he hasn't been this sort of open, communicative guy he portrayed himself to be, not only when he first took over, but after the whole Super League and protests and all that sort of jazz. What's that there? Producer Callum, right, has just stormed into the studio, with a brew. Hey, well done, son. Absolutely elite levels of producing there. It's actually Ethan who's running the desk, but he obviously can't go and get me a brew. But Callum's coming to me one. Thank you, sir. So Laurie Whitwell he's tried to find Joel Glazer, couldn't find him. We were going to do this, right? And you probably heard me and Steve talk about this on the brew. We said, right, you know what we need to do? We need to go over to America, find the Glazers, and get them. I don't mean physically attack them. Never advocating that. I mean interview them, doorstep them. And funnily enough, when you went on, I can't remember which, I think when you went on like Street View or whatever, or Google Earth, you could see one of them outside the gaff in Tampa. I think it was Avram. It might have been John, I don't know. They're all the same to me. So we wanted to go over there and try and doorstep him. Unfortunately, it was just still when COVID was sort of wreaking havoc with travel plans and all that. It wasn't easy to sort of arrange in the time we wanted to do it. Anyway, someone else did it. Someone else went over there. I think there was a reporter from over in America, and then Sky went over there, challenged Avram. He didn't speak to them. He just ignored them, as the Glazers do. And it was just, a waste of time, pretty much a waste of time, because he just sort of, showed that arrogance and that ignorance that we've come to expect from the Glazers. But like I said earlier, there are these reports and rumours now that some of them are willing to sell. They wanted to sell a minority stake. I think they weren't happy with it, or didn't get many offers for that. They are open to selling, but it's Joel apparently who's not so keen. And he mentions this in the Athletic article. They've made so much money. They make so much money that it's always going to be difficult to get them to sell easily. We know that. We've had so many protests, and we've seen the protests continue, the 1958 groups like that, continuing the protests, and, more power to them. We want to see that carry on. But part of the issue is, even when Manchester United make money, I think we made £115 million loss or whatever it was. last year, or we were down, the profits were down, well, profits, we're still in loads of debt. I think we're still in £600 million debt. Even when we weren't making money, they were still taking dividends. They took out a loan, I think, of 40 million and ended up paying themselves 33 million in dividends. I didn't even think that was allowed, but they do it. So we're always going to be in a situation where they're going to keep taking money out and they're going to be reluctant to sell because they're making so much money. I mean, it is so frustrating. A lot of people are asking about Rashford. I'll get into Rashford in a minute. I just wanted to touch on the Glazers. Go and check out that article in the Athletic. Keep your eye on as well what happens with Joe Glazer and when he does speak to the fans forum, what he's got to say for himself. But you know my thoughts on the Glazers, and if you don't, I just, the sooner they F off, the better. They've been nothing but bad news for Manchester United Football Club, and I cannot wait to see the back of them. There's a lot of people commenting about Marcus Rashford, spotted in Carrington, according to the MEN. Let's just have a look now, see if I can spot anything on that. Let us know where you're seeing that story, if that is on the MEN, because Marcus Rashford was actually a doubt, wasn't it, for the Manchester derby. There was talk that he perhaps wasn't going to play, hadn't trained, had this muscle injury. This is what we heard. I think he picked up against Arsenal, but a few of you in the comments are saying that actually he's been spotted at Carrington, so he could. Yeah, let me just find this now, what I'm just seeing here. The latest article I can see in the Evening News here says that, I think this is from this morning at 10 o'clock, says Manchester United could be without Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial for the derby, this weekend's derby at City, saying that Rashford and Martial didn't participate in training. Oh, hang on a minute. We've got an update. Here we go. Thank you. Yeah, United Report have posted, and there's a picture there. Marcus Rashford arriving at Carrington this morning. I think that's via the Manchester News. I mean, thanks for that, Anna. How fit he is, I don't know. You can't tell from looking through that picture through his windscreen. It doesn't give you an update on his injury. But he's at least at Carrington. So we'll see. There's a press conference in there today. So we're going to hear from Erik Ten Hag, and I'm sure he'll give us an update and let us know what's going on in terms of Marcus Rashford, because in fact we'll get onto the fitness story, producer Ethan, because the latest sort of update was that Martial was unlikely, if not out. Marcus Rashford wasn't looking likely, and Harry Maguire wasn't looking likely as well because of the injury he picked up playing for England against Germany. There was an article in the Telegraph by James Ducker, who's a friend of the channel. He was on the channel the other week. And it said, Cristiano Ronaldo in line to start Manchester derby amid United striker shortage. The Portuguese forward's only Premier League start so far this season came in Manchester United's 4-0 humiliation in Brentford. And then it goes on to say that he's due to start for his first Premier League game in more than 7 weeks, with Erik Ten Hag at risk of being without forwards Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial. Also adds Manchester United captain Harry Maguire is set to miss even the trip to the Etihad Stadium after suffering a muscle injury during the 3-3 draw, England's 3-3 draw with Germany. So we know, like, Maguire was always doubtful, and we saw him limping after the England game. Now it looks like Marcus, he's at Carrington. We know he's, the MEN or United Report, whoever, posted a picture of him arriving at Carrington. Does that mean he's going to be fit enough to start? I don't know. Hopefully, Erik Ten Hag can give us some clarity on that. Hopefully, Marcus Rashford is available, because I think we need him. I think Marcus Rashford does have a good record against it, and he is the type of player that could do well against him if we are, as I expect we will be doing, playing a sort of counter-attacking game against Manchester City. You can always rely on Marcus on the break, or, you can usually rely on him on the break with his pace to cause them issues. So if those players aren't available, though, if Marcus Rashford isn't available, if Anthony Martial isn't available, it makes sense what James Ducker's saying, that Cristiano Ronaldo comes in. I mean, the other options are obviously Anthony. You could have Anthony, you can have Jadon Sancho, and you can have Anthony Elanga. So, there is a scenario where you can have a different front three without Cristiano Ronaldo. I just don't see it. I know this season he hasn't really had much of a chance. I mean, he's had one Premier League start all season. And even when they've had injuries, Anthony Martial's been out most of the season. Even then, Cristiano Ronaldo struggled to get in the team. But I don't know, I'd be very surprised if Marcus and Martial are out and Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't get into the team. That would be pretty shocking. Hit that like button, 79 likes. Let's get to 200 likes. If you're watching, hit the like button. Richard Brake says, Jay, I watched Ronaldo playing for Portugal and I actually felt he played a little bit cringe. when compared to his colleagues. It's hard to see him playing like this after his incredible career. Yeah, it is painful, isn't it? It's not nice seeing Ronaldo sort of fading away. Do you know what I mean? He is a legend of the game. I mean, he's won the lot. He scored practically more goals than anyone. And when you see him sort of as a 37-year-old looking like he's a little bit lost, it's not great. And it's a bit sad. Liam Kiley says, get Phil Jones up front. He sticks his head on anything. Steve Kilgarriff, when you thought that was a bad opinion, right? Thought that was a joke. And the next one's even worse. Steve Kilgarriff says, Andy Tate up front. Hey. John Doe says, Harry should only play for England now. Brilliant when he bottles it for them. Laughing emojis. I don't know about that. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to contradict myself here because I also do that. It is getting a bit boring at the whole Harry Maguire thing and whatever. Everyone's talking about Harry Maguire, and I feel a little bit, like Harry Maguire fatigue. But we will be talking to someone who broke that story or had that story about Harry Maguire last week. I think it was Mark Ogden, wasn't it, in ESPN. So we're going to be chatting to him later on because I think they need a bit of clarity on what's been said there because there was a bit of confusion. Some people saying it was Mark Ogden's opinion. Some people saying this quotes coming from Harry Maguire's camp. We're gonna try and clear all that up later on today. I think that's out tomorrow. So make sure you're checking that out because it all just adds to a lot of confusion, doesn't it, at the minute? I'm not really sure. And also, the main thing is with Harry Maguire, whether you like Harry Maguire or not, right? Whether you're a big fan, when you think he's good enough, where you think he isn't good enough, whatever your opinion of Harry Maguire, you want him to do well for Manchester United. I want him to play well when he plays for Manchester United. I don't want him to underperform or to be, not to be a sort of an embarrassment or whatever. I want him to perform for Manchester United, and he has performed in the past. I don't want him to get back to those levels where we saw maybe his first season and a big part of his second season when we finished third and second. He just doesn't look like it's happening for him at the minute. And, he's a massively divisive figure for the Manchester United fan base. And I know there's a lot of people who are just sick of the sight of him. There's some that are backing him. But regardless of what your opinion is him, I just want to see him, when he does play for Manchester United, playing well. I think that's what we all should want. Let's have a look here what people are saying in the comments. Sam Dowden says Bruno should never be playing as a false nine. Yeah, we've tried little experiments, haven't we, this season? When Christian Eriksen was like a false nine, wasn't he, almost in that first game against Brighton. Bruno has been playing as I think Ralph Rangnick used him as a false nine at times. He even used Paul Pogba there once, didn't it? But obviously he can't do that this season. Yeah, I think if Ronaldo is available and if Marcus Rashford isn't playing or isn't fit and Anthony Martial isn't fit, I think playing Ronaldo makes the most sense for me, rather than trying to play Bruno as a false nine or even playing Anthony, Sancho and Elanga. I think you need a little bit more experience with that. And Cristiano Ronaldo, whether you think he's past it or not, he's always got that sort of puncher's chance, hasn't he, Ronaldo? Maybe it's just a set piece, getting his head on a corner or whatever. You never, you can never fully count him out. People were doing this last season with Ronaldo. He went through that horrible time, didn't he? He had, I think his missus gave birth to twins and he lost one of them, unfortunately. And he came back and he'd been having a bit of a rough time of it. He came back and then he had that spell where he started banging in the goals again. And he finished on 18 Premier League goals, which is pretty respectable. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't, knock that, especially when you look at how Manchester United are performing. The question is, is he declining even further? Because he's at that age where he's not aging like wine, is he? He's not going to get better as he gets to his late 30s. Most attackers are done by the time they're sort of 33, 34. He's 37 now, I think. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Cristiano Ronaldo. What was the other story I had here? Sorry, I've got another one. De Jong, thank you, producer Ethan. Where would we be without Frankie de Jong's story? This is in ESPN, I think. And it's basically saying that, long story short, yeah, you thought it was all over. So people on the picture think it's all over. It is now. No. The De Jong saga is set to rumble on, I think, forever. I think we'll always be linked with him. No matter how many decades in the future it is, we will still be linked with Frankie de Jong. In ESPN, it says Barcelona's Frankie de Jong remains on Manchester United's transfer wish list. Sources told ESPN, while Borussia Dortmund midfielder Jude Bellingham will also be central to United's transfer plans next summer. Despite strong interest from United, de Jong remained at Barca during the transfer window, saying he never wanted to leave the Spanish Giants. But sources told ESPN that United manager Erik ten Hag isn't put off by the 25-year-old's public stance and won't rule out the possibility of making another bid next summer. Do you want de Jong? Are we still up for him? Do we need him? Now we've got Casemiro. It seems to be that we still do. We're still interested in him. It seems to me that he was like Erik ten Hag's main man. That was the one that Erik ten Hag really wanted, you know, more than any other players. And it was so baffling that we spent so much time trying to get him. And it failed, because I thought there must be something in this where Erik ten Hag's spoken to someone who knows De Jong, or they've spoken to each other, and he knows he'll come. Like, why would we waste all this time trying to get him if this deal couldn't happen? And yet, in the end, it just didn't happen. It just, you know, we didn't get him, and it was just really strange that we wasted, and it was a wasted months chasing a player that didn't want to come here. Santa Notch says, well, we're still linked with Milinkovic-Savic, so probably some truth in being linked with De Jong. Yeah, we've been linked with Sergio Milinkovic-Savic for about 4 years, isn't it? 4.5 years, maybe even a bit longer. It's really weird. I'll get into this, actually. Dave Harrington just mentioned there, Donny van der Beek agent slamming his treatment. Yeah, I've seen this story. Let's have a little look here. Because Donny van der Beek, he's not had an easy time of it, has he, at Manchester United? He came over from Ajax, and Ajax sent us this message, didn't they? Make sure you look after him. Do you know what I mean? Protect him and all this sort of stuff. Look after our asset, and, you know, he's a good kid. Look after him. A lot of people are very excited. He was a Ballon d'Or nominee. He'd been part of the Ajax side under Erik ten Hag, obviously. Done well. Got to the Champions League semis and all that jazz. Didn't really get much of a chance. And there was almost like this Free Donny campaign, wasn't there, where everyone was like, you've got to play more and all this sort of stuff. Now his agent's spoken out. I think this is, I'm reading this in the Times, but it comes via a Dutch website, Voetbal Premier. And it says, Donny van der Beek's former agent has criticised Manchester United, claiming that they gave preferential treatment to Paul Pogba last season. I'm just going to take a sip of this before it goes cold. Guido Albers said that relations between United and Van der Beek diminished because former manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer allowed Pogba to break the rules in the summer of 2021, just when his former client was working hard to prove himself following a difficult maiden year at Old Trafford. And this is a quote. It says, he, Van der Beek, made a plan to return to United for the 21-22 season, in top condition. He hoped for a chance, but politics and interests also play a role there. He had to compete with Paul Pogba. Pogba reported to the training camp too late, said sorry, and was allowed to play again, in the place of a boy who trained 10 hours a day for 8 weeks to show that he was good enough. That was disappointing. It stuck in my teeth. I was disappointed about the way he was treated at Manchester United. Do you agree with that? What do you make of that? Were you disappointed the way Donny van der Beek's been treated, or do you think he's been treated fairly? People are arguing about it, aren't they? Some people are saying that, do you know what? He's had a chance. He hasn't taken them. Others saying he hasn't had a chance. I'll have a look. Santa Notch says, well, why is he not playing under Ten Hag? You'd have thought his old manager, who knows him better than anyone, certainly from a football point of view anyway, would have said, right, you know, give him a chance. He hasn't really had many minutes, has it? It still feels to me like he's fifth choice in our midfield. He's certainly not getting in ahead of the likes of Christian Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes. And even then, I think Fred's probably ahead of him in the pecking order. I know that they're all different types of players, but, you know, where does Donny van der Beek fit in? How close is he to a start? I think it'd take like 3 players being injured in midfield for him to start. Casemiro, again, a different type of player, but Casemiro can't even get a start at the minute. So Donny van der Beek, for me, it just feels like he is down that pecking order. I'm going to wrap it up there anyway. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the chat and the comments. We'll be back later on. We're going to have the brew at 4 o'clock. Also, tomorrow, like I said, we'll have that interview with Mark Ogden. Don't forget as well, we've also got the preview that is up on the channel, the Manchester Derby preview, where we'll be looking ahead to that small matter of going to the Etihad on Sunday. And on Sunday, we'll be here for the watch-along. Don't forget as well, right? You guys can get involved in the watch-along by sending us your score predictions. Yep. It's Paddock. Is it paddockmatchday@gmail.com? Yeah, paddockmatchday@gmail.com. Send us like a 30-second in landscape. So get your phone. All right, like that. Film yourself giving a 30-second score prediction. Just say what you think the score is going to be and why, and then send it to paddockmatchday@gmail.com. And we'll use that in our sort of build up to the derby. So what will get you guys more involved in the channel, we did this thing about not doing fan cams anymore. That doesn't mean we can't have you on this channel. And that is a good way for you to get on here. So send us your score predictions. Let us know who you are when you send them over as well in the email. Just say, this is who I am. We'll tag you in it and all that sort of stuff. And hopefully we'll hear from you guys soon. Don't forget as well to hit like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to read this one last comment out because I'm narcissistic and I quite like, affirmation. I'm that shallow. Richard Brake. Jay is my favourite presenter. Easy listening. Nice one. Great show. What a great way to end it. Thanks, Richard. And thanks for watching.